Hey everyone, so in this video we're going to be covering the chords that you just heard me playing, and these would be my kind of go-to chords to play in the key of A major for backing any kind of Celtic music. So the first chord is going to be this A modal or A5 chord, and this chord may look like a new shape to you, but all it is if you've played any sort of electric guitar before, you've probably come across a power chord shape like this. So if you're putting your first finger on either the low E or the A, this would be the shape that you would use normally, okay? All the shape is rooting your first finger on the D string instead, okay? And because of the B and the G, the interval between these two strings, we need to adjust the shape. So we don't have this anymore, we've got this, okay? So what we're doing here is we've got our first finger on the 7th fret on the D string, we've got our third finger on the 9th fret of the G, and we've got our little finger on the 10th fret of the B string, okay? Now we've got our A string open and our high E is open as well, but I'm using my second finger here to mute the low E, okay? So that's going to be our A5 or A modal chord. Now you may find with that chord that you are accidentally muting this high E, and the reason that you're doing that is because of your wrist placement and your thumb placement, okay? So if you were to just hold the guitar that we normally do, kind of maybe between our first finger and our thumb, and you fret this chord, you're probably going to be muting the high E with either your little finger or kind of the bottom part of your first finger here, okay? So what you need to do is slide your thumb round a little bit. So we don't have it up here over the top, we're going to slide it round just a little bit, and that'll allow our, more arch in our little finger and our first finger, and it'll mean that you won't mute this high E, okay? Now the nice thing about this chord is you can move it around the neck, okay? So we've got our A here. What I would tend to do with this shape is then move it down a few frets to where I've got my first finger rooted on the 4th fret, okay? But with all the same fingering, so it's the exact same shape, but we're now 4, 6, and 7 fretted notes, okay? But I'm still allowing the A string to ring open and the high E. And this is going to be, it's essentially an F sharp chord, okay? So it would have an extended name, but just for the purposes of this, we're just going to call it an F sharp. So that would be an F sharp, and then another chord that I would use a lot still in this shape would be down 2 more to our E. So now we're on 2, 4, and 5. And then I'd move it down to where I've got my third finger on the 2nd fret. This is basically a D sus2 chord, okay? Or an A over a D sus2. So third finger on the 2nd fret on the G, little finger on the 3rd fret of the B string. Everything else is open except the low E, okay? Now you will maybe recognise this chord if you were to swap the fingering and do this instead, so it's basically just a D major shape. Take your second finger off, okay? But I keep this fingering because it allows me to slide quickly back up to this A shape, okay? So A, F sharp, E, into our D. Now you can also use this chord to go up the way as well, so we've got our A, move the exact same fingering up 2 frets for a B. We can go 2 frets higher up for a C sharp. Then we can have this really kind of high D shape if we go 1 more fret up. So if you don't want to move around as much as that, you can actually stay rooted in this position for the majority of our chords too, okay? So we've got A, then to get our A sus4, or in the kind of context of backing a tune, I would be counting this almost like a D shape, okay? I'm just going to take my first finger off, and all the fingering still the same, still muting the low E, everything else is still open. Okay, so that would be an A sus4. So I've got A, then A sus4. And now the last chord that we use up here would be our kind of E equivalent chord. It's still kind of just an E over an A shape. But what I'm doing here is I am keeping the same fingering for this A shape, but I'm going to take my first finger off, but I'm going to use it to then mute that string instead. So instead of having 7th fret on the G string fretted and open and like played, I'm just going to lift it off and have it muted, okay? Then I'm going to use my second finger here to, instead of muting, it's not muting the low E anymore, it's muting the A. So I'm just allowing the E string to ring open. We've still got our third and little finger fretted and the high E's open, okay? So this is going to be our E equivalent chord. So if we were to make up a little progression using some of those chords, maybe first staying in this position and then moving around a little bit, you could do something like this. Okay, so thank you for watching this video. If you'd like to learn more chords and strumming patterns and things like that, you can check out my Patreon, which is linked in the description below. But if you enjoyed the video, give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.